All right, you guys, example 3. Whoa, doesn't this look exciting? So, the reason why I've been teaching you all how to use proportions is because we're going to be using proportions all the time to solve for the sides of triangles that we don't know the value for. So we're going to have missing side lengths, and proportions will help us to find these missing side lengths, because I know you guys have been dying to solve for all these missing side lengths probably most of your life. So now you're going to learn how to do it. So anyways, this is kind of setting us up for future sections. So in our triangle, AD over DC equals AB over BC. And using these proportions, I've given you the values. There's 3 different scenarios, which you're going to look on the rows to get that. Using different scenarios, you guys will be able to solve for the missing pieces in this table using our proportion, which is pretty cool. And this empty table right now is stressing me out, so let's try to find all the missing values for the sides of this triangle. Doesn't this sound like a blast? I know, I agree. Well, let's get going, you guys. Okay, so on here I have the whole table set up. Now, in example 3, it's kind of like 3 problems in one. We're going to go by each row. Row 1 is a problem, row 2 is a problem, and row 3 is a problem. Okay, well, let's get going, you guys. So my first example, I know that AD is 4 and DC is 6, which if it helps you, if you want to label those as 4 and 6, you can. Just know that each time we do this, there'll be different values for all your sides. So if you want to do that, that's fine. You just might have to draw your triangle 3 times. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to focus it. Okay, so let's get going. So I know AD is 4 and DC is 6. So if I know AD and DC, how can I find AC? Well, if I know these 2 pieces using the segment addition postulate, we can find the length of the entire segment. Okay, so I know if I add AD to DC, I will get AC. Okay, so I know if I add AD plus, let's see here, plus DC, that will give me AC. So let's see here, AD, I'm going to substitute in my value. AD is 4 and DC is 6. So 4 plus 6 will give me the value of AC, which is 10. Okay, so AC is 10, because I can add these 2 pieces together to get the length of the entire segment. So 4 plus 6 is the whole thing, which is 10. Pretty cool. Okay, now I want to know what side BC is. I currently know AB, and I know AD and DC. So I know AD, I know DC, I know AB, but I need to find BC. So what we're going to do, you guys, we're going to fill in the missing pieces in our ratio and solve for BC by cross multiplying like we did up here. Okay, well, let's get going on this, you guys. So I'm going to, since this is row 1, I'm going to put 1 right here, and I'm going to set it up. So A to the D is 4. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm making a mess over here. All right, so A over D, or AD is 4 over DC, which is 6. And that will equal AB, which is 8. And BC, I don't know. So you can do this in 2 ways, you guys. You can write this as BC, or in my opinion, it's easier to make our missing side an X. Because I think if you see BC, it just kind of gets confusing. So I'm going to call our missing side, which is currently BC, I'm going to call it X. Okay. And from here, we simply just cross multiply. But before we do that, I'm going to give you guys a helpful tip that will help you when you guys are cross multiplying to make your numbers smaller, because when your numbers are smaller, it is easier to solve a problem. Okay, so I can actually reduce down the fraction 4 over 6. Do you guys know do you guys know a number that will divide into 4 and 6? Holy hot dog, it would be 2, you guys. So I'm going to divide each of these by 2 to reduce down my fraction. Okay, so I'm going to have 4 divided by 2 is now 2. So we have 2 over 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this fraction reduces down to 2/3. And if you guys see, since I now have smaller numbers, this will be much easier to solve. So this is 8 over x. 8 over x. Okay, now this side I can't reduce down because I got this x in the way, and I don't know a number that divides into 8 and x, so I gotta leave that one alone. Okay, so from here, you guys, guess what? We just simply cross multiply. So let's get going. Okay, so I'm going to start this way. 2 times x is 2x, and that will equal the other way. So the other way, 3 times 8 is 24. And now I just solve for x. So the 2 and the x are secretly multiplying together. Okay, and the way that you move the 2 over would be the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So 2 divided by 2 cancels and turns to 1. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So I know my missing side is 12, which in this case my missing side is BC. So this would be 12. Okay, well row 1 is done. So let's get going on row 2. Okay. Alright, so currently in row 2, I have AD. I don't know DC, which means I can't find AC because I need AD and DC to add together, like up here, to find AC. So currently I don't know those two, but if I know DC, then I can find AC. So I'm going to use AB, BC, and AD to help me find DC. Because after I find DC, then I can find AC. Okay, so just like over here, I'm going to set up my proportion. So this is for row 2, so I'm going to call it a 2. Okay, so we got AD, which is now an 8, so it's a different number. So if you like to label your picture again, I would personally draw a separate triangle and fill in your new values. So we have 8 over the side I don't know, which is DC. I don't know DC. I'm going to call it X for now, since I don't know it. And that will equal AB, which in this row, AB is 8. Or I'm sorry, JKLOL. AB is 16. And that would be over BC, which I know is 18. All right. And from here, we just simplify down and cross multiply and solve. So let's get going. So again, before you cross multiply, you could go ahead and cross multiply and you get the same thing I get. But remember, your numbers are easy to work with if you can reduce it down. So I don't know, looking over here, I think I can reduce this down. So let's see. Is there a number that divides into 16 and 18? That would be 2. So I can divide both of these by 2 and reduce down my numbers. Okay, so I have 8 over x. I can't reduce this side down. So 8 over x equals 16 divided by 2, which gives me 8, and 18 divided by 2, which gives me 9. Alright, so now that my fractions have been simplified down, now it'll be much easier to solve when I cross multiply. So let's get going, you guys. I'm going to cross multiply. So 8 times 9, that will give me, I'm going to bring it up here, 72. And that will equal the other way. So let's cross the other way. X times 8 will give me 8x. Alright, let's solve for x, you guys. So I need to bring 8 to the other side, which currently these two are secretly multiplying. Okay, and the way that I bring 8 to the other side in this case would be to divide by 8. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. 8 divided by 8 cancels and turns to 1. 72 divided by 8 would give me a 9. So I know x is 9 in this case. Okay, so my missing side in this case is DC. That's the side I didn't know. I put an X there, if you guys see. Okay, so DC I now know is 9. Which now that I know AD and DC, like before, I can add them together to get AC. So I'm going to add AD and DC together to get AC. Okay, which A to the D is 8. And D to the C is 9. All right, you guys, and guess what? 8 plus 9 gives me 17. So I now know AC is 17. Okay, so now we have one more row to solve, which I'm going to add on more paper because I just have a feeling I'm going to run out of room. I just already know it. Okay, so again, this one's kind of strange though. So on this one, I have AB, I have BC, but I don't have either of these values. I don't have AD or DC. I have AC, but I don't know how AD and DC relate to each other, and I can't assume that these two are equal. Okay, so I'm actually going to have to use one of those nifty ratio properties that we went over, actually a proportion property. So let's go back to our Prezi video real quickly. So I'm going to go back to those properties we talked about earlier. Okay, so I know, which you guys can see your paper, I know AB and BC, and I know AC, which AC is equal to AD plus DC. So if you guys see here, I might need to use one of these ones down here where you add. So if you add the numerator, or if you add the two values together and divide by the current denominator, that will equal these two added together over the current denominator. So I'm going to be using the spinal property as we solve. Okay, so let's get going. All right. So I'm going to use the property that says I can add these two together and divide by the current denominator, and that will equal these two added together over the current denominator. So for part 3, I'm going to be working down here. So I'm going to add these two together, so AD plus DC, and I'm going to divide it by, which I'm just going to set this up to make this color coordinating process go a little faster. I like to color coordinate, so sorry guys. Okay, so I can add these two together and divide by my current denominator, which my current denominator is DC. And that will equal these two added together, so I can add AB to BC and divide by the current denominator, which is BC. Okay, so let's get started, you guys. Okay, I don't know AD and DC, but I know if I add those two together, I get AC. So I know that AD plus DC will give me AC, which is 13. So I'm going to say 13 over DC, I don't know. So I'm going to put in an X for DC because I don't currently know DC. That's the one I don't know right now. Okay, and that will equal AB plus BC. So I'm going to add 15 plus 24. That will give me 39. So I'm going to write 39 over my denominator, which is BC. And currently, BC is a 24. So I'm going to divide that thing by 24. Okay, and then from here, you guys, we simply just need to cross multiply. But don't forget, if you can reduce down your fractions, it will make your math a little bit better. So do you guys know a number that will divide into 39 and 24? Let's think for a minute. Well, I know that 3 will divide into both, so let's start with 3. Okay, so we have 13 over x equals 39 divided by 3. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So it would be 13 over 24 divided by 3 gives me 8. Okay, and you guys can't see what I'm doing. All right, and then from here, now we just simply cross multiply. So let's get going, you guys. We're cross multiplying pros, so you guys got this. Okay, so I'm going to start this way. I'm going to do 13 times 8, which I don't know off the top of my head, so I'm going to do some little math over here. All right, 13 times 8 will give me 104. So I have 104 equals 13 times x, which is 13x. Okay, and then from here you solve for x, which don't forget there's secretly multiplication in between the 13 and the x. Okay, so the way that you move a 13 to the other side in this case would be by dividing both sides by 13. 13 divided by 13 cancels and turns to 1. 104 divided by 13, well, that's going to give me an 8. So currently, I know that my missing side is an 8, which my missing side is the x, which is DC. So I know DC is 8, so I'm going to fill that in my nifty table. So this is 8. Okay. Now, I'm still missing one side, which is unfortunate because we're almost there. We got the whole table filled out except this lonely spot right here. Do you see anything in the table that might help me find AD? Well, we know AC is 13, okay, and we know that the way we find AC is by adding together AD and DC. So what plus 8 will give me 13? Or you can reverse it. You can say, well, 13 minus 8 will give me AD. So what is 13 minus 8? Holy hot dog, you guys, it would be a 5. And guess what, you guys? That was a pretty epic problem, and we got through it. So nice job, you guys. I had a blast. I know you did too. Way to go.